Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. We're not meeting for a while now at 1631 Ford Parkway because our governor just shut us down. So you'll have to just enjoy the videos for a period of time here until we're allowed to meet again. This is about the Green Comet that's coming our direction. It's not going to hit us or anything like that, but it will be an imposing sight in the sky, and I just wanted to go through the historical ramifications of comets and other disasters. First, I want to set it up with what brings comets and what brings disasters. Well, obviously, a stupid peace plan that shouldn't have been presented. There's a historical context where every single leader that tries to divide the land has horrible things happen to their land. And so, in this case, we have coronavirus cases that are just going bonkers right now. And I hope everybody that's listening to this is safe and healthy and able to earn enough income so that you can survive through this time frame. But this was a stupid deal. And if you notice that it happened in January, and that's when the coronavirus started to hit worse, and other things have happened since then. So what I'm going to show you is that during the time of late April and May up to about the 23rd, up to the week just before Shavuot, which is Pentecost in the Christian church, that you will have this green sword in the sky. And I'd like you to see it as a ramphea, a sword, and that is from Revelation 6:8. That is the fourth seal. So, as always, I try not to twist the Bible. I try to give you accurate prophecy or history. And then the news, I try to present what's logical and what makes sense. So, let's go through Zephaniah. I don't cite it very often, but it seems important in this case. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O shameless nation. Before the decree, bring forth the day when one passes as the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you, seek ye the Lord, all ye humble of the earth, that have executed his ordinance, seek righteousness, seek humility. It may be that ye shall be hidden in the day of the Lord's anger. That's the day of the Lord. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, surely Moab should be like Sodom, and the children of Ammon as Gomorrah, and you know what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, even the breeding place of nettles and salt pits and desolation forever. The residue of my people shall spoil them, the remnant of my nation shall inherit them. This shall they have for their pride, because they have taunted and spoken boastfully against the people of the Lord of hosts, or tried to divide the land. And the Lord will be terrible unto them, for he will famish all the gods of the earth. That's the most important thing about the video. I'm going to be able to point out that all the gods of the earth are failing right now. And then shall all the isles of the nations worship him, every one from its place. So that's Zephaniah again, rarely quoted. And then the day of the Lord, keep in mind, this is Corinthians 14, and that's right after the love chapter, which is 13. So even lifeless things sound, giving whether a flute or a harp or a distinction on the sounds they give now will be known that is being piped or being harped or distinct on the trumpet, salpingus. And that is a 4536. That's a tekiah, more relative to that. The trumpet blast, 4537 is technically what the tekiah would be. That would be a long, loud blast. That's the final trump. That sound that gives one will prepare himself for battle. So teruah would be a different sound. The polemon or polemos would be the teruah sound, which would be short staccato blasts, so that you with the tongue, if not intelligible speech, how would you understand? So basically, if he gives you the wrong call, if he gives you the teruah call when it's an ingathering, or the tekiah call when it's battle or war, how would you understand? So you need to know these things when we come towards the end here and you hear these sounds in the air. And once again, this is from Numbers 10, so you can see tekiah 4537, teruah is 4591, that's semyon. And so I want you to be able to see that in the Greek as it compares to the New Testament, and then also in the Hebrew on the other side, where you'll see the teruah in the Hebrew and the tekiah, and keep in mind that they are different sounds. So the tekiah is one long straight blast. The shevarim are broken wailing sounds, and the teruah are 9 quick blasts in short succession. So what are the signs that are coming up on the earth right now? See that no one leads you astray, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, the Messiah. And they will lead many astray. And you will hear wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed. because these things must first take place. But the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, that's limos, scarcity of harvest, and it can be famine, and loimos, a pestilent pest plague, could be grasshoppers and locusts, and earthquakes in various places, and the earthquakes are picking up right now, but these are the beginning of the birth pangs, so it's just going to get worse. And we'll see that as I move along through this video. As I stated before, the coronavirus is getting worse, and so they're saying this is the Zohar, which is Midrash, which is commentary on the Torah, and they said that you'll notice that in the end of days, when it is time just before the Messiah, there's first going to be one virus that the people are going to have some sort of control over it when it spreads around the countries of the world, and after that, it doesn't say how much later, there's going to be another virus that is going to be similar but worse than the first virus. And I'm actually hearing that from a few other people that I actually like. I'm not going to name their names because this one is named. This is a source from Breaking Israel News, and the name of the person is, I'm sorry, they don't state his name here. Well, anyway, the main thing is, and that is going to be God's way of purifying the world so Messiah could come. So according to the Zohar, we are at the end of days, not the days leading up, but we are at the end of the days leading up to Messiah. I want to cite a little bit about this. Etna is interesting. This is one of those gods of the world, and this is in Sicily. And it's been erupting for a year now, and it's starting to pick up a little bit more. And you're starting to see weird sights from Etna that look kind of like a comet, and a greenish one too. And Etna is a god, an ancient god of volcanic eruptions. And so our God comes against this god of eruptions. And so, yeah, it's just all small g God talk. Okay? He's coming against football. He's coming against God mode in basketball and coming against the WWE or whatever they're called now. He's going to silence all the gods. So keep that in mind, whether it's an earthquake or a volcano or NBA or everything's being shut down right now. There is silence across the world. And he's coming against false gods, like there is no angel named Moroni. And there was a 5.7 earthquake that hit them in Salt Lake Temple, so Salt Lake City just the other day here. This is March 18th. And the trumpet of all things, that trumpet is not in his mouth right now. And so keep in mind that the Mormons, the SDAs, and the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, I will argue that the SDAs are wonderful, godly people, but the Mormons are a cult. The Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult. They're going to be coming back, and the cult-like aspects of them are going to fall apart. But they're going to be espousing some of the strangest things from the 1840s that you've ever heard of. So just be aware of that. Other icons are going to fall too. So Notre Dame fell on the 10th day of Nisan last year, and we just had Nisan. In fact, I'm recording on Nisan 1 right now. And then here's in Croatia, we had another earthquake, and off fell the icon. So all the sports teams, all the idols, everything's going to fall. And so keep that in mind. And then I wanted to state that he's going to come, and it'll come to pass in the day that I will punish, and God will do this, on the host of the exalted ones on high. That's the Merom. That's that area. So I'm showing you the second heaven down in the lower left there. They're in it's probably the first heaven. And that's where these exalted ones, the Zava, we say in the Hebrew, they're in the Merom, and the kings on the earth also. So this is from Isaiah 24, verse 21, and it shows that there are different levels of heaven, and Paul went up to the third heaven, though he doesn't state that it was him, but it was. But there is that first heaven. It seems to be where these guys hang out all the way up to the moon. Okay. And then Rome is being punished too. Italy is being punished horribly right now. And so, for thus saith the Lord of hosts, yet once for a little while I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all the nations. The choicest things of all the nations shall come, and I will fill this house with glory. And saith the Lord of hosts, minus the silver and minus the gold. And so I'm arguing that Rome needs to return the silver and the gold that they took. So I showed you that slide before. I didn't hit it that much, but it shows the Titus Arch in Rome and how they took all of the holy items from Israel in 70 AD and brought it up to Rome. Well, it's time to give it back because mine is the silver, mine is the gold, saith the Lord of hosts. The glory of this latter house shall be greater than that of the former. So that would be the latter house was the second temple, and because Yeshua walked in it, it was greater. And so, and I will give peace. So just be aware that these plagues, according to the rabbis, are as a result of it's time to give back the silver and the gold that belongs to our Father. Iran is being hit. They have spent so much time hating Israel, and they have the coronavirus, they have the locusts, and they also have flooding right now. And so people are avoiding Mecca and Medina and Saudi Arabia. And so 1.8 billion Muslims are affected as they really can't go there for fear of diseases because these Muslim countries are being hit. And then this guy off to the right, this is very interesting. So this is Sheikh Imran Hossein, and he projected this 14 years ago. And he said, I never said that the Hajj will be abandoned in 2020. That's a load of rubbish. Well, he kind of said it, though, if you watch this video. And you can hit it. He may take it down. He's claiming that he will. But basically, he's saying in 2004 that in 2020, the Hajj would be closed down and you wouldn't be able to head to Mecca and Medina. And guess what's happening? So he kind of said that. A very interesting prophecy. So what signs? Now we're going to move on to the comet time. And so God said in Genesis 1, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven and divide the day from the night, and let there be for signs. And I'm going green because that's where we're going to go with this. For seasons, that's Moedim in the Hebrew, and that is God's festivals, which we're hitting the first one very soon here, Passover, and for days and for years. And let there be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. So, comets are vile stars. So, this is very interesting. This has been chronicled since 70 AD in many ways and moving forward. So, in ancient civilizations, without exception, they have looked upon comets with a sense of trepidation and awe. Comets were considered to be harbingers of doom, disease, and death, infecting men with a bloodlust to war, contaminating, spreading disease and plague. It's coincidental, but it seems to be the case. And so the Chinese astronomers, and this is many, many years ago, 300 BC, they were noting this in 300 BC. The apparition of comets preceded plague and disaster. Comets are vile stars. They appear in the south, they wipe out the old and establish the new. Fish grow sick, crops fail, emperors and common people die, and men go to war. And that seems to be the case. So this is an interesting article from the Journal of Cosmology, and it's a historical. So I'm going to cite this for you, Halley's Comet. Now, I'm going to cite the easiest first. 1910, Halley's Comet showed up. 1914, we had World War I. Halley's Comet was in 1986, and 1990 brought Desert Storm. And that war's never really ended because Bush 1 and Bush 2 kept it going. 1835, then, so the first Opium War was 1839. Then Halley's in 1758 brought the 1762 Anglo-Spanish War. Then 1682 brought 1686, the Child's War, Russo-Turkish War, Siege of Buda. Then 1607 and 1611, Kalmar War, Salt War. 1066, very interesting. Right after that came the Norman invasion. It appeared in 1222. Genghis Khan invaded Europe. It appeared in 1456, and it prevented the Ottoman siege of Belgrade. 2020 brings Comet Atlas. Will that bring judgment in 2024? So we have the Great Comet of 1577. We have war in 1581. The Dutch Republic revolted in 1581. And I'm arguing that Calvinism kind of forced that. But basically, we have another case of, and the Great Comet of 1680, the Great Turkish War of 1684. So we have these comets coming through, not necessarily Halley's, but they bring war generally in 4 years. But they also bring plagues and disasters. So right now, Atlas is showing up. And soon after its discovery, Atlas began growing brighter than expected. And by the end of May, that's Shavuot, it'll make even more exciting color, this greenish color. And it should be huge in the sky if things work out. Now, I'm not a prophet. So I'm not telling you absolutely positively that Atlas, another god, small g, will pop up in the sky and be as big as the sun, but I'm saying that it could possibly happen. And it's very interesting, and these comets have meaning. So it's following an interesting 6,000-year orbital path. And it's similar to the Great Comet of 1844 right now. So just, and I didn't check out if there was a War of 1848 or anything like that, but generally there is. So right now, Comet Atlas is certainly the biggest green thing in the solar system. And so I'm going to show you that green matches up with the fourth seal. C2, it's carbon, emits a beautiful green glow in the near vacuum of space. It's going to be a long ways away. It's not going to hit us 72.6 million miles away, but it will be, look at the Big Dipper. Can you see just to the left of that? That's where it should be from March 23rd through March 31st, and then it will just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you should be able to see it. So that's Comet C 2019 Y4 Atlas. And so this is BP Earthwatch, and so he's citing that it's going to be green, very, very green. So let's talk about the green. Well, first we have to talk about Atlas, the god of Atlas. He holds up the globe. And so Atlas is getting bright, really, really bright. And Atlas, the god, needs to be destroyed by God. So it's interesting that they named it after, and it's an anagram, I believe. And so it's very interesting how it matches up for the astronomical observatory. But this is an Atlas named Comet. So, and Atlas holds everything up. So he was the leader of the Titans in their war against Zeus. And after his defeat, he was condemned to carry the heavens upon his shoulders. So it's just an interesting name. Okay. And then the size, it'll just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we don't really know the size yet because we're not able to really study that. And then once again, it shows you where it's going to show up. And right now, Atlas is certainly the biggest green thing out in the solar system. It's C2, as I mentioned, and it's that green glow that's so interesting. So it'll start in mid-April and then go through May, May 23rd. So let's talk about historical comets in terms of stuff that intrigues me. And so in 66 AD, the comet showed up, and then in 70 AD, we have the destruction of the temple. So according to Josephus, as he was reporting during that time frame, the signs and the prodigies which preceded the taking of the city, a star hung over the city like a Ramphea sword, and the comet continued for a whole year. Comets don't continue for a whole year. The people being assembled to celebrate the feast of unleavened bread, and that is during the time of Passover. It's right after that, but it's that week. On the ninth hour of the night, there shone such a light about the altar and the temple that it seemed to be as bright as day. That's a bright comet, people. It continued for a half an hour. Remember, there's that half an hour of a pause in Revelation chapter 7. Maybe, no, it's chapter 8, early in chapter 8, talking about that half an hour pause. Very interesting. Then they brought a cow to be offered for sacrifice. It brought forth a lamb, during the time that they were offering it as a sacrifice. So then the eastern gate of the temple, which really it took like 20 men to close and open, very heavy brass, very, very heavy. They could barely shut it, by 20 men, but it was fastened by strong bars and bolts. On the sixth hour of the night, opened on its own accord, and they knew what was going on. And then they heard a multitude of angelic beings saying, "Let us depart hence." And they knew it was time, it was going to happen. And then the other problem was there were false prophets. And if you look around right now, there are just tons of false prophets out there. None of them seem to understand what's going on. And then I wanted to show you pictures. So that's a Makira sword on the upper left, and that is from Revelation 6:4, the second seal, standard killing sword. Then the Ramphea is used by a charioteer or a horseman, and it drives down into the chest cavity, and that's the long sword, the green sword. And then down below, the second day after Passover in 2014, during the blood moon tetrad time frame, this is what's shown over Washington, D.C. and New Jersey, southern New Jersey. Josephus continues on, proving that it was February of 66 that they saw Titus attacking the city. Then he backed up for a while, and then he notes what happened after that. So the star, resembling the Ramphea, hung over the city for a year. It was a comet. It was bright, shining, around the altar of the temple and the vision of the chariots and the soldiers running around. So, so what is this a harbinger of? Atlas, they spotted it in December. Um, by March 17th, Atlas was already a magnitude of plus 8.5, over 600 times brighter than the forecast. So the poor scientists, they don't know what's going on with this and why it's brightening so much, but I think it's prophetic. So continuing on, I'll show you in Revelation 6:8 what I'm talking about. So this is Comet Ison. Keep in mind, I talked about Comet Ison for months and months and months back in 2013, 2014, and nothing really happened. But, we learned from that. So once again, Comet Atlas should brighten by late April, mid-May, and it should be about as bright as Polaris, the North Star rather. Okay, so now, I'm saying that history never repeats, but it rhymes. Okay, and that's Mark Twain. And so from Ecclesiastes, from Solomon, that which has been shall be, and that which has been done is that which shall be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing wherever it is said, see, this is new? It has been already in the ages which were before us. Ecclesiastes 1:9 through 10. And then God has a purpose to this. I know that whatever God does, it shall be forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. And God hath made it, and we should fear him. So these signs that you've seen of the past should occur again. So the big four. So I want to get into Revelation 6:8 so you can see the big four again. So hunger, plague, pestilence, teeth of beast, sword, four disastrous acts of judgment from Ezekiel 14, judgment of judgment sword. The sword, the famine, the wild beast, and the pestilence. And in the Greek, that sword is a rhomphaia. Very interesting. Then in Psalm 91, pestilence, destruction, the waste at noonday, sword, lion and the adder, the animals. So those are the big four from Deuteronomy, Ezekiel, and Psalm 91. They are in Revelation 6:8. So let's look again, as always. The fourth seal, and it's the chloros, which is the same color, that yellowish green color of Atlas, and also it's the color of grass in some cases. It can be chloros or Clorox, almost like bleach. Thanatos, death, and Hades. So the name of this particular horseman is Thanatos, death, and Hades, the place of departed souls, was following after him. He was given authority over a fourth of the earth, that's 1.8 billion people, to kill with the rhomphaia, this long comet-like sword, green, okay, and with famine, that's limo, and that's basically dearth of your crops, and with thanatos, again with death, and therion, which is biological warfare, which relates to the COVID virus, which I've stated based on Great Game India is a planned virus. China was working on it. It looks like they went to North Carolina, of all places, to get some of their scientific secrets. They basically bought off the North Carolina scientists to be able to get all the research done on this. And then this is from 1 Chronicles 21. So you can see that David is given three choices. 3 years of famine, that's limos, okay? 3 months of fleeing from the face of your enemy with the Makira sword, the shorter sword. And then, or 3 days of the broadsword, that's the rhomphaia sword. And then, so there's Thanaton, the plague in the land, and the angel of the Lord destroyed 70,000 people. Now, what came from all of this? So Lemos again, Makira sword, Rhomphaia sword is the long sword, and then Thanatos' death. But what comes from this is the threshing floor. And this is what came from this the first time, and I believe this is related to it again. So this is 1967, Shlomo Goren. Goren in Hebrew means threshing floor. And so David purchased the threshing floor. Shlomo blessed the threshing floor with his own name. And so, very interesting man, lived to be 77 years of age, and he blessed Jerusalem on that amazing day. And then they handed back the Temple Mount, which is crazy. I'm saying that there are trends in the world, and so I'm saying that Daniel lists off these time frames of the various beasts, if you want to call them that, Babylon, and you've got Cyrus, then after that Medo-Persia, then Greece, Alexander, then Rome, with the various Caesars. I'm saying that you can take it forward from 70 to 560. You can go with Justinian I, the last Roman emperor, and then from 560 until 1050, Pope Benedict IX was a wicked pope. And there was a schism that occurred at that point in time, so it broke the legs apart. And then Suleiman the Magnificent sealed the Eastern Gate in 1540, so then you add another 490 years and you get to 2030, which is pretty much the ending point. I'm not predicting that Jesus returns before or after that date. I'm just stating that it's very interesting for time frames. And so you've got, the head of gold, once again, that would be Babylon. Medo-Persia is silver, and that would be Cyrus. And then Greece would be Alexander, which is the midsection of brass or probably copper. And then the legs of iron, which is Rome, and then the papal state continues on after that. And so we're going through that, and so I'm comparing it to the fact that the eagle's wings, well, that's like Great Britain and the United States as the wings are pulled off, the eagle with the wings. Cyrus the bear, that's Russia. Alexander the leopard, well, that's also Germany too, Greece and Germany. And then Caesar, Rome, and the final Rome. So let's look at it from the perspective, again, I said that in 70 AD the temple fell, but keep in mind that as you see, all the artifacts were pulled out at 70 AD, but then by 79 Common Era, Mount Vesuvius blew and Rome lost its second largest city. So 560, as I mentioned, the last Roman dies. 1050, the leg split, and Messiah doesn't like splits. So the Eastern Orthodox split from the Roman Catholic, and then 1540, Suleiman the Great is followed by lions in his dreams, and then he seals the gate for only the Messiah to enter. So then 500 or 490 years later is 2030, and that's 2,000 years or 2 days from his resurrection. And then I wanted you to be aware of this too. It's very interesting how we have the Jubilee years that factor into this too. In the 1167, the Rambam, a famous rabbi, witnesses the Deuteronomy 28 curses in Jerusalem. 1517, that's the Reformation year with Martin Luther. But also during that time frame, you have Salem I, who is a Muslim fellow capturing Jerusalem at that midpoint. 350 years after 1167, then 350 years later, that's a 700-year time frame, Mark Twain proves these curses to Israel that are from Deuteronomy 28, but Lieutenant Charles Warren finds the ancient waterways, the mikvahs we'll call them, the baptismal fonts, and it's kind of God's sleight of hand that he was allowed to do so because Twain was there. 1897, 66 days from Av 970 Common Era takes you to 1895, the day when Theodor Herzl recognized the Jews needed Zionism in their own promised land, and then he finally put it together by 1897. But he had that viewpoint in 1895, so that's exactly 666,666 days. 1917 is that other Jubilee year when you have 3 huge signs occur, and so that was the end of World War I, basically. Then I want to show you the 10-year patterns, just so you can see those too. So this is Lindbergh opens up flight for worldwide people in 1927. 1937, we prepare for World War II as the Hindenburg Zeppelin crashes. 1947, they approve the State of Israel. 1957, we birth this horrific EU seat of Satan in Berlin and the Treaty of Rome, which aligns all these European nations. And this will be part of the cities and the kingdoms of the beast during the end time. That Treaty of Rome kicked it off in 57. 67 is the Jubilee year and the Six-Day War. 77 is the peace agreement that kicks off 40 years of peace. 1987 is the increase of knowledge as computerization just hits. 1997 is cloning, that's mixing of seed. God does not like that. 2007 is Putin, Russia restarts the Cold War. 2017 is the Jubilee year. We focus on Jerusalem and Jerusalem being the capital, and Trump acknowledges that is the new capital of Jerusalem. And then the signs of the green horse in 2020 are everywhere. Add 10 years and that's 2030. So keep in mind that from 2010 to 2019, we had all of these blood moons. In the middle, you'll see Passover, Tabernacles, Passover, Tabernacles, and the supermoon in there in 2014, 2015. And so it's just interesting that we had all of these signs, and now there are no signs other than this interesting sign in the sky that's about 7 years later from those signs, the blood moons, And then we also ended it all with a wolf moon, a super blood wolf moon on January 20th, 21st from 2019. So my friend Mark Biltz is the one that got us started on finding these things. And I just want you to be aware of these time frames, that there are no more blood moon eclipse tetrads coming up that we can see that matter. There are no blood moons that seem to match perfectly over a 9-year time frame. And all we have is this green comet coming at us, and that is a sign. Once again, the Green Comet shows up in April and goes through May up to Shavuot, but basically up to about the 23rd of May. So it matches up just before Shavuot, and that will be an interesting Green Comet. I truly believe that Seal 3 is open, that we had Seal 1 open many years ago, Seal 2 around 9/11, then Seal 3 opened in 2012. We are watching the signs of Seal 4, and this Green Comet might be that sign that kicks it off. And then Seal 5 would be martyrdom, and then Seal 6 would happen after that. So what I'm mentioning, just so you have something happy to think about after all of this, is that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sins and restore their land. And so just keep that in mind from 2 Chronicles 7:14. And then here's another spot from Chronicles, and if we should pray and seek his face and turn from our wicked ways, he'll listen from heaven and he will heal the land. And so keep that in mind from Chronicles. In both cases, we want healing instead of plagues, but the plagues are coming. So be blessed, and thank you for this time together.